I gazed at my phone, stunned, my heart racing with disbelief. Moments ago, my mother had called, her voice warm yet unfamiliar, extending an invitation to dinner at my parents' house. It had been months since our last conversation, a brief and stilted exchange, and years since I'd stepped foot in their home. My name is Donna, I'm 32, and I've long been labeled the black sheep of my family, or so they believe. Growing up, I was perpetually overshadowed, always trailing behind my younger sister, Melissa, the golden child who could do no wrong in their eyes. Melissa was undeniably prettier, with an effortless charm that captivated everyone, especially our parents. She had a magnetic quality, a way of drawing people in with her radiant smile and sparkling wit. It wasn't that my parents were outright cruel to me. Their favoritism was subtler, yet unmistakable. They'd miss my dance recitals, citing busy schedules, but miraculously clear their calendars for Melissa's performances. My average grades prompted stern lectures about trying harder, while Melissa's similar marks were praised as her doing her best. The disparity stung, carving a quiet resentment deep within me. With a heavy sigh, I placed my phone on the cool marble countertop of my kitchen, a small luxury in the upscale apartment I'd never shared with my family. Why had Mom reached out now, after such a long silence? What could they possibly want? Fine, I muttered under my breath, resolving to attend. I'll go. A week later, I pulled into the driveway of my parents' modest suburban home, deliberately dressed in understated attire, faded jeans, a simple blouse, and minimal jewelry. Nothing hinted at the successful life I'd built, far from the struggling middle manager they assumed I was. Taking a deep breath to steady my nerves, I rang the doorbell. My father opened the door, his face lighting up briefly. Donna, come in, come in. His welcome felt genuine, but his eyes darted elsewhere, distracted. As I stepped into the living room, the reason for his distraction became clear. Melissa lounged on the couch, commanding the room's attention like a queen holding court. My parents were riveted, hanging on her every word as she animatedly recounted some trivial drama from her workplace. She paused mid-sentence when she spotted me, her perfect smile unwavering but her eyes glinting with mischief. "Oh, the prodigal daughter returns," she quipped, her voice laced with mock sweetness. Mom leaped to her feet, exclaiming, "Donna, honey, we're so thrilled you could make it." She enveloped me in a fleeting hug before swiftly returning to her perch beside Melissa. I settled into an armchair across from them, feeling Melissa's gaze sweep over my outfit with thinly veiled disdain. "Love the thrift store chic look," she said, her smirk barely concealed. "Thanks," I replied coolly. Not everyone needs designer labels to feel confident. Dad cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "So, Donna, your mother's prepared a wonderful dinner. It'll be ready in about 20 minutes. We exchanged awkward small talk until Mom announced that dinner was served. As we gathered around the familiar dining table from my childhood, Dad poured wine for everyone. Melissa wasted no time launching into tales of her glamorous job at a marketing firm. "They practically begged me to take on the Johnson account," she boasted, tossing her hair. "Said I was the only one who could handle it." "That's wonderful, sweetie," Mom beamed, reaching over to pat her hand affectionately. Dad turned to me abruptly, his tone almost obligatory. "And you, Donna? Still at that same company. What was it, assistant manager?" I sipped my wine, pausing before responding. "Still at Berkshire Financial?" "Yes." Melissa snorted derisively. "God, Dawn, you've been there, what, 8 years now? Most people would have climbed the ladder by your age. I mean, I've been promoted 3 times in 4 years." My jaw tightened, but I held my tongue. If only they knew I'd been Berkshire Financial's director for the past 3 years, that my annual bonus dwarfed Melissa's entire salary, that I'd been celebrated in Business Weekly's 40 Under 40 list last year. But they didn't know, because they'd never asked, never shown enough interest to learn about my life. Instead of correcting her, I offered a tight smile. "Not everyone has her ambition, Mel. Or her talent." Mom chimed in, serving Melissa another generous scoop of mashed potatoes. The dinner conversation continued in this lopsided fashion, with Melissa regaling them about her impressive salary, her envious coworkers, and her upcoming Hawaiian vacation. My parents lapped it up, peppering her with questions and lavishing her with praise, while I sat quietly, my contributions ignored. "I've been saving for Hawaii for months," Melissa bragged, shooting me a smug glance. "But when you make good money, it's not that hard." "That sounds amazing," I said, pushing my plate away. "But I should head out. Early meeting tomorrow. Thanks for dinner, Mom." I stood, gathering my purse. Mom walked me to the door while Melissa and Dad remained at the table, engrossed in her stories. "It was good to see you, honey," Mom said, patting my shoulder absently. As I drove back to my sleek downtown apartment, a nagging suspicion lingered. There had been some hidden motive behind the invitation. Whatever it was, I was relieved to escape. Back in my spacious home, I kicked off my shoes, poured a glass of fine wine, far superior to the cheap bottle served at dinner, and settled onto my balcony, gazing at the twinkling city skyline from my 28th floor haven. Just then, my phone pinged with a message from Melissa. "Hope you're not too down about your sad little life, sis. Not everyone can be successful, I guess. Don't worry, though. I'll send you a postcard from Hawaii." I stared at the message, then burst into laughter. If she only knew. Closing the text without replying, I sipped my wine, the city lights reflecting my quiet triumph. My strained relationship with my family hadn't always been this way. As a young child, before Melissa's arrival, I held a special place in their hearts. I have hazy memories of Dad tossing me gleefully into the air, Mom reading me bedtime stories with a gentle smile. But everything shifted when Melissa was born, when I was 4. She was the ideal baby, rarely fussy, always beaming, with big blue eyes that seemed to enchant everyone. By age 10, the pattern was undeniable. Melissa was extraordinary, and I was merely ordinary. Desperate for their approval, I threw myself into every activity: clubs, late-night study sessions, weekend volunteering. In high school, I excelled as valedictorian, debate team captain, and yearbook editor. Yet, when I delivered my graduation speech, searching the audience for my parents' proud faces, I found their seats empty. They'd chosen to attend Melissa's dance competition instead. That day, something inside me shattered. I realized no achievement would ever be enough to win their love. So, I stopped seeking their validation and began building a life for myself. I earned a full scholarship to Princeton, graduated with honors, and secured a position at Berkshire Financial. Within 5 years, I was leading my own team. 3 years ago, I was promoted to financial director. I never shared these milestones with my family. They never asked. My phone's sudden ring jolted me from these memories. It was Mom again. I hesitated before answering. "Hello. We're hosting a family gathering next Saturday," she said. "Everyone will be there. Aunt Carol, Uncle Jim, your cousins. We'd love for you to come." I frowned, sensing an agenda. "What's the occasion?" "Oh, just a family get-together." "There's something special to announce," she replied, her tone evasive. Every instinct urged me to decline, but curiosity prevailed.
"Fine."
"What time?" "4 o'clock. And Donna, please dress appropriately." I hung up, irritated by her assumption that I'd show up in disarray. Saturday arrived, and I stood in my expansive walk-in closet, deliberating. I settled on a sleek black Chanel dress, subtle in its elegance, recognizable only to those with a discerning eye for craftsmanship. To the unaware, it appeared modest, but its price tag exceeded Melissa's monthly salary. When I arrived at my parents' house, cars crowded the driveway, including Aunt Carol's sedan and Uncle Jim's truck. Bracing myself, I stepped inside. "Donna," Aunt Carol exclaimed, pulling me into a warm embrace. "It's been years. Look at you, all grown up and so poised." I forced a smile. "Great to see you too, Aunt Carol." For the next 15 minutes, I chatted with relatives I scarcely remembered, all the while observing my parents and Melissa huddled in a corner, whispering and casting occasional glances my way. Whatever this announcement was, their excitement was palpable. Mom eventually summoned everyone to the extended dining table, set for 15 or more. Once seated with plates of food, she stood, tapping her glass to command attention. "We've gathered you here today for a special reason," she began, her voice filled with pride. "Melissa has some wonderful news to share." Melissa rose, clearing her throat with exaggerated drama. 2 weeks ago, she declared, her tone brimming with self-satisfaction, "I purchased my own apartment in Westridge Heights." The room burst into applause. Westridge Heights was a desirable neighborhood, though not the city's most exclusive. "It's a stunning 2-bedroom," she continued, basking in the admiration. "Mom and Dad helped with the down payment, of course." She blew them a theatrical kiss, which they returned with adoring smiles. "When's the housewarming party?" Cousin Brian shouted. Melissa simpered. "Oh, I haven't decided yet, still perfecting the space." I smiled privately, sipping my water. A commendable achievement, even with parental assistance. Suddenly, Mom turned to me, her voice unnaturally loud. "Donna, you haven't congratulated your sister." All eyes shifted to me. Melissa giggled maliciously. "She's probably just jealous. Not everyone can afford property in this market." My parents exchanged a smug glance, and Mom, ensuring her voice carried, added, "Well, it'll be a long time before Donna can match this achievement. Property ownership is for those with real careers." The table fell silent, everyone awaiting my reaction, expecting humiliation, perhaps a faltering defense or tears. Myself, to build a life where I no longer depended on their approval or affection. Their sudden interest in me, sparked only by my financial success and their need for help, felt hollow and opportunistic. I wasn't about to let guilt manipulate me into fixing their problems, or Melissa's. With a genuine, spontaneous laugh breaking the tense silence at the dinner table, I decided to drop the bombshell. "Actually," I said, my voice steady and clear, "I bought my place 2 years ago." Melissa's confident smile wavered, her eyes narrowing in disbelief. "A condo, you mean? Or maybe a townhouse?" she asked, her tone sharp with skepticism. I took a deliberate bite of food, chewing slowly, letting the anticipation build among the gawking relatives. "No," I replied calmly, "it's an apartment. 4 bedrooms, a corner unit with a wraparound terrace in Lakeside Tower." Gasps rippled around the table. Lakeside Tower was the city's most prestigious address, a gleaming symbol of wealth and exclusivity. Melissa sputtered, her face flushing. "That's impossible. You're a middle manager. You couldn't afford a broom closet in Lakeside." I dabbed my lips with a napkin, unruffled. "I've been financial director at Berkshire Financial for 3 years now. My salary and bonuses are comparable." The shock on their faces was almost comical, priceless in its raw honesty. Dad's fork clattered onto his plate, his mouth agape. "Financial director?" he echoed, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Why didn't you tell us?" I met his gaze evenly, my tone measured but firm. "None of you ever asked." A heavy silence blanketed the table, thick with unspoken truths. Mom's expression softened abruptly, her voice adopting a forced warmth. "Darling, that's wonderful news. When are you having your housewarming?" "We'd love to see this apartment." I smiled faintly, unshaken. "I had my housewarming 2 years ago, with friends." Mom's smile stiffened, a crack in her facade. Melissa's face had turned a vivid shade of red, her composure unraveling. My relatives, meanwhile, regarded me with newfound curiosity, as if seeing me for the first time. Uncle Jim raised his glass, breaking the awkward hush. "Well, congratulations, Donna. That's quite an achievement." Murmurs of agreement followed, though my parents and Melissa remained frozen in stunned silence. As dinner resumed, I noticed a shift. Relatives who had barely acknowledged me earlier now peppered me with questions about my job, my life, my accomplishments. Their sudden interest felt artificial, a stark contrast to the years of indifference I'd endured. The atmosphere grew stifling, with Melissa sulking in the corner, my parents oscillating between shock and an unsettling eagerness to reconnect, and my relatives fawning over me in a way that felt performative. I didn't linger long after dessert, citing an early morning meeting. But it's Sunday tomorrow, Mom protested, trailing me to the door. Global markets don't sleep, I replied smoothly, a half-truth. I did have a call with our Tokyo office, but not until the afternoon. Driving back to my apartment, a sense of liberation washed over me. For years, I'd concealed my success out of spite and self-preservation, knowing their opinions no longer held sway over me. Now, with the truth laid bare, I felt unburdened yet weary. My apartment welcomed me with its serene elegance, high ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows, and the soft hum of the city below. I kicked off my heels, sank onto the plush sofa, and gazed at the twinkling skyline. The events of the evening replayed in my mind, and suddenly, the pieces fell into place. The impromptu dinner invitation the previous week, the orchestrated family gathering today, it was all a setup. They'd intended to parade Melissa's achievement, a modest apartment purchase with their financial help, while subtly highlighting my perceived failures. They'd gathered the entire family to witness my supposed inadequacy, to cement their narrative of me as the lesser sibling. Instead, their plan backfired spectacularly, leaving them scrambling to reconcile with a reality where I wasn't the family disappointment but a self-made success. As I processed this, my phone buzzed incessantly, first Dad, then Mom, then Melissa. I silenced it, opting for the comfort of a movie instead. Their words could wait. By Sunday morning, my phone showed 17 missed calls and a barrage of text messages, most demanding I call immediately, or insisting we need to talk. I ignored them, immersing myself in my routine, yoga, brunch with friends, and preparing for the work week. By evening, the messages grew more desperate, culminating in a lengthy text from Mom.
Donna, we need to speak with you.
Your father and I have given this a lot of thought. We've always supported Melissa financially because we thought you were struggling too much to ask for help. Now that we know you're doing so well, we believe, as family, we should all support each other. Melissa's having trouble with her mortgage payments. As her successful sister, surely you could help. Call us back immediately. I stared at the message, incredulous, then burst into laughter so hard I nearly dropped my phone. The audacity was staggering. After years of neglect, favoritism, and a deliberate attempt to humiliate me, they now expected me to bail out their golden child. My fingers flew across the screen as I typed a response. I'm not interested in discussing this. You wanted to embarrass me yesterday, and now you're asking for my help. Please don't contact me again about this matter. The 3 dots of Mom's reply appeared and vanished repeatedly, as if she couldn't find the words. Finally, her message arrived. You're being selfish, Donna. This is what family does. If you refuse, you're choosing to exclude yourself from this family. Think carefully about this. I didn't respond, instead pouring myself a glass of wine. A strange sense of finality settled over me. A chapter closing, painful but less so than I'd anticipated. Monday morning, I dove into work, burying myself in quarterly reports and budget meetings. As financial director of a major firm, my demanding schedule left little room for family drama. By midweek, the ordeal had faded to a distant memory. Then, my assistant buzzed my office. Ms. Williams, 2 people in reception insist on seeing you. They say they're your parents. I froze, my hand hovering over the keyboard. Tell them I'm in a meeting. They said they'll wait as long as necessary. I sighed, weighing my options. Give me 5 minutes, then send them in. I tidied my desk, straightened my tailored suit jacket, and braced myself. When my parents entered, their eyes widened, taking in my expansive corner office with its panoramic views and polished awards displayed on the credenza. Nice place, Dad said, his gaze lingering on the certificates. Thank you, I replied curtly. What can I do for you? Mom stepped forward, her expression a mix of determination and forced warmth. Donna, we need to discuss Melissa's situation. She's struggling with her mortgage payments and with your financial success. I cut her off, my voice firm.
No.
I'm not paying Melissa's mortgage. Dad's face reddened, his tone sharp. Now listen here, young lady. Family helps family. Your mother and I have always. Always what? I asked quietly, my words slicing through his bluster. Always been there for me? Supported me equally? Showed up for my important moments. They exchanged uneasy glances, caught off guard. That's different, Mom said defensively. Melissa needed more attention. She was more sensitive. And now she needs more money, and suddenly I'm family again. I countered, shaking my head. You didn't consider me family when you missed my high school graduation, my college commencement, or the countless birthdays and holidays I spent alone. You're being ridiculous, Dad snapped. We're your parents. Biologically, yes, I said, standing to signal the end of the conversation. But you stopped acting like parents years ago. I have work to do. Mom's expression hardened, her voice icy. If you turn your back on us now, you'll regret it. Family is all you have in the end. I have friends who've been more family to me than you ever were, I replied, pressing the intercom. Nancy, please show my visitors out. As they left, Dad turned back, his voice low and ominous. You're making a terrible mistake, Donna. This isn't over. The door closed, and I sank into my chair, a whirlwind of emotions surging within me. Part of me ached, yearning for a family that never was, but a stronger part felt liberated, as if I'd finally shed a toxic weight. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into work, taking on extra projects and extending my hours. If my colleagues noticed a change, they were discreet enough not to comment. I declined social invitations, preferring the solitude of my apartment or the rhythmic distraction of long runs along the riverfront. Nearly a month after the office confrontation, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Hello. I answered warily. Donna, it's Aunt Carol. I relaxed slightly. Aunt Carol had always been the least judgmental of my relatives, though our connection was distant. Hey, Aunt Carol. What's up? Her voice lowered, cautious. I thought you should know what's happening. Your parents are telling everyone you're a terrible person. They're saying you refused to help your sister despite being wealthy, and now they're struggling to cover her mortgage payments. I laughed dryly, unsurprised. Let me guess, Mom's taken extra shifts and Dad's working weekends? Exactly, she replied. How did you know? Because that's the narrative they want, I said, pacing my living room. Poor, hard-working parents sacrificing everything for their struggling daughter, while the selfish, rich one refuses to help. Aunt Carol hesitated. So, is it true you're not helping them? Yes, it's true, I confirmed. I'm not paying Melissa's mortgage. Can I ask why? She ventured. I sighed, the memories flooding back. Aunt Carol, do you remember my high school graduation? Of course, she said warmly. You were valedictorian. Your speech was lovely. My parents weren't there, I said flatly. They went to Melissa's dance recital instead. They missed my college graduation, my first promotion, my second. They didn't even know I was financial director until I told them at that dinner. For years, they've treated me like I was invisible unless they needed a foil to prop up Melissa. My voice caught, but I pressed on. Now, they're only interested because they think I can solve their problems. The line was quiet for a moment. I didn't realize, Aunt Carol said softly. I knew Melissa got more attention, but I didn't know it was that bad. I just thought you should know what they're saying. Thanks for the heads up, I said sincerely. I appreciate it. After hanging up, I wandered to my balcony, the city's skyline stretching before me. Was I being heartless? Perhaps. But years of emotional neglect had taught me to guard my heart, to prioritize my peace over their demands. Their attempt to shame me into compliance only strengthened my resolve. I wasn't the villain in their story, no matter how desperately they tried to cast me as one. I'd long accepted that my parents had made their choice, consistently prioritizing Melissa over me. Now, they would have to live with the consequences of their actions, just as I had learned to live with their neglect. The morning after Aunt Carol's call, I made a resolute decision. Sitting at my sleek glass desk, I opened my laptop and booked a 3-week vacation to Europe, a long overdue indulgence I'd postponed for far too long. Paris, with its charming cobblestone streets, Rome, steeped in ancient grandeur, Barcelona, vibrant with color and life. I envisioned myself wandering through world-class museums, savoring exquisite meals at quaint bistros, and leaving the family drama far behind. As I finalized the bookings, my phone lit up with a text from my mother. "Your sister got fired yesterday. Now, she definitely can't make her mortgage payments. If you don't help, she'll lose her apartment. Is that what you want?" I stared at the message, shaking my head at the blatant manipulation. My fingers moved swiftly as I typed a reply. "What I want is for you all to handle your own problems like adults. I'm going on vacation for 3 weeks.
Please don't contact me again.
Before she could respond, I blocked her number, then did the same with my father's and Melissa's. It was a drastic step, but necessary. I couldn't move forward if I allowed their chaos to keep dragging me back. The day before my flight, I met my closest friend, Tara, for lunch at our favorite bistro, a cozy spot with warm wooden tables and the aroma of fresh-baked bread. Tara and I had met at Princeton, and she'd been my unwavering support through every career milestone and personal storm. "So, you're really cutting them off?" she asked, her brow furrowed with concern as we settled into our seats. "I already have," I replied, spreading a linen napkin across my lap. I blocked their numbers, and I told security at work not to let them in again. Tara stirred her iced tea thoughtfully, the ice clinking softly against the glass. "Are you okay with that? They're still your family." I gazed out the window at the bustling street, where pedestrians moved with purpose under the midday sun. "Are they, though?" I said quietly. "Family is supposed to support you, celebrate your achievements, show up when it matters. They've never done any of that." Tara nodded, her expression softening with understanding, and we shifted to lighter topics, her recent work trip, my upcoming adventure, reveling in the comfort of a friendship that felt more like family than my own ever had. The next day, as I boarded my flight to Paris, a weight lifted from my shoulders, leaving me lighter than I'd felt in years. The seat beside me was empty, a small but welcome luxury on the long transatlantic journey. I settled in, opened a novel I'd been eager to read, and prepared for takeoff. Just as the flight attendants began closing the cabin doors, my phone pinged with an email notification from an unfamiliar address. The subject line read, "From Dad." I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen, then opened it. "Donna, your mother and I are disappointed in your childish behavior. Blocking our numbers, refusing to discuss family matters. This isn't how we raised you. Melissa is struggling, and as her sister, you have a responsibility to help. We've had to dip into our retirement savings to cover her mortgage this month. Is this really the daughter we raised? A selfish woman who puts luxury vacations above family needs? Think about your actions while you're gallivanting around Europe." I deleted the email without a second thought, switched my phone to airplane mode, and leaned back as the plane's engines roared to life. The city shrank beneath me, its lights fading into a distant speck, then vanishing entirely as we climbed above the clouds. For the next 3 weeks, I immersed myself in the beauty of Europe. In Paris, I wandered the Louvre at dawn, marveling at the Mona Lisa's enigmatic smile. In Barcelona, I watched the sunset paint the sky in hues of gold and crimson from a sandy beach. In Rome, I savored creamy gelato by the Trevi fountain, the cool sweetness melting on my tongue as I tossed a coin into the shimmering water. I captured hundreds of photos, cobblestone alleys, vibrant markets, ancient ruins, but shared none on social media where my family might see them. These moments belonged to me and me alone. On my final night abroad, seated at a charming cafe in Rome with a glass of Chianti and a plate of Cassio e pepe, I realized something profound. The anger that had once consumed me had dissipated, replaced by a quiet acceptance. The hurt lingered, a dull ache beneath my ribs, but the burning resentment that had fueled me for so long was gone. My parents and Melissa had made their choices, and I had made mine. We were all living with the consequences, and for the first time, I felt at peace with that truth. When I returned home, tanned and rejuvenated, my apartment felt like a true sanctuary, its sleek lines, soft lighting, and expansive views a testament to the life I'd built. On the kitchen counter sat a stack of mail, bills, magazines, and a cheerful postcard from Tara, who'd attended a conference in Seattle. Nothing for my family. I unpacked my suitcase, ordered takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant, and settled onto my balcony with a glass of wine, the city skyline sparkling below. I was free, not just financially, but emotionally, unburdened by their expectations and old wounds. Raising my glass to the night sky, I smiled, a quiet vow to myself. "Here's to moving forward," I whispered, the words carried away by the cool evening breeze. Please feel free to comment below if you liked this. Remember to like and subscribe for more.